today's faculty, Sri R.C. Agrawal sir. He is Director and CEO of Infrastructure Corridor and Project working in National Highway Authority of India. We all of you know that we have already started the training program of contract management and dispute resolution in highway projects on yesterday, that is on 12th of September. Yesterday, we have covered the manual of specification and standards for 2, 4, and 6 lane. Today, we will discuss on model concession agreement for PPP for highway projects. In that, Sri R.C. Agrawal sir will focus on the filling up of the brackets and asterisks in model document provision in article and schedule with respect to the uh, PPP contract. In that, BOT, NUT, and HAB will be covered. So I will request to the participant that please make it a two-way communication. Please ask your questions whenever you feel the difficulty during the session. There will also be in a 15 minutes time break at around 11:15 to 11:30. During the presentation also, participant can ask the questions from our faculty sir, but for that, all the participants have to take the permission from our faculty. Otherwise, at the end of the presentation, there will be a question ask session. In that, participant can ask their questions or clear their doubts. So I will not take much more time. I request Sri Agrawal sir to start his.
Thank you so much, Gupta ji. It is my proud privilege to be here today to address the August gathering on model concession agreement for PPP mode projects, particularly BOT annuity, BOT toll, hybrid annuity mode, which are prevalently under implementation. So in today's topic, I've been told to give a talk on filling up of brackets and asterisks in the model documents and provisions and articles and schedules in the model document for PPP projects. I thought before we can start going into detail about filling up of brackets and asterisks, there is a need to understand what is BOT projects under different modes when we talk about public-private partnership. So here we need to understand what is PPP mode. Public-private partnership mode is a contract between private entity and government, that is public authority, to execute infra projects like roads, bridges, power plants, etc. Silent feature of this model is that the private entity will bear entire cost except land for executing the project, and they milk the revenue by couple of streams. Now there are different streams. When we talk about PPP mode projects, the first comes BOT toll. Now in BOT toll, the concept is private party is responsible for designing, building, financing, operation of the road project or any other infrastructure project. Accordingly, the private entity bears the construction risk. Further, the private party not only construct the road but also operate and maintain the same, along with making arrangement for all finances. Thus, the developer bears the O&M risk also. Further, the private entity generates revenue and recover their cost by collection of tolls. If the traffic doesn't correspond to the projections made, then the developer bears traffic and commercial risk, as well as thus private entity bears maximum risk in BOT toll project. After conclusion of the concession period, the project site is transferred back to the authority. This is the BOT toll concept. BOT annuity As name indicates, a private company will build, laying of road, operate, repair and maintenance, and transfer to the government after annuity period is over. Private entity will receive annuity from the government or the authority for this project. Normally, the concession period is 15 years plus the construction period, that is BOT annuity model. Now, hybrid annuity mode. It is a mixture of BOT annuity and EPC. In this, private player doesn't collect toll, however, make recovery of its investment along with the debt via 40 to 60% of the project cost by way of construction support or grants provided by the authority during construction, and remaining amount via annuities over a period of 15 to 10 years. It depends upon NHI has adopted the model of HAM for 15 years, but the state governments through North they are operating, they are going for 60% grant and 10 years annuity period. Thus, this model is a win-win situation for both the parties. The concessionaire maintains the road asset over the concession period, and every year he also gets O&M costs as quoted by them, indexing over the years based on 70% on WPI, 30% on CPI. This system was prevalent up to May 2022. Thereafter, O&M is will be paid by the authority along with the annuity as per the prescribed rate in the RFP, the draft concession agreement, that is concession agreement. When we will be talking about hybrid annuity mode in detail, we will be discussing about all these things. Now, what is EPC? Though it is not part of subject matter of today, but I thought it is my moral responsibility to also give you some brief on EPC so that we can differentiate between EPC, HAM, BOT toll and BOT annuity. Now, EPC, it is a particular form of contract management arrangement used in some industries where EPC contract is made responsible for all activities from design, engineering, procurement, construction to commissioning, and thereafter handing over of the project to the end user or the owner. Under EPC mode, a private entity will bid for the tender, execute infra projects on behalf of government. This means cost of executing the project would be catered by the government, designing to execution in the turf of private entity. For the all financials, O&M, revenue risk are borne by the government, the authority only. That is EPC. Now, take example of the two major agencies of North, NHI and NHI DCL. These are the two implementing agencies apart from the NS division of state highways, where the projects are being executed through North. They assign those projects to NS division of the state concerned. So there we need to understand how it functions publicly for public funded mode of highway projects. Here, the constraint by the existing financial resources of the government is the main concern. That is why there is a need of an innovative implementation model, that is hybrid annuity mode. Now, when we talk about hybrid annuity mode, it is a mixture of two things. Now, when we talk about the standard documents has been issued by the ministry and earlier the Niti Aayog, BOT toll, BOT annuity, then BOT HAM. On different occasions, they kept on revising these RFPs and model concession agreements. When we talk today, we talk about the standard model documents. In case of BOT toll, Ministry of Road Surface Transport has issued the RFP, a combined RFP for BOT toll for 4-laning and 6-laning in August 2020, which NHA adopted by a policy circular 11.24 which was issued on 21st December 2020. But if you see in last 2, 3, 4 years, on BOT toll, only a few projects has been undertaken. Otherwise, rest of the projects, because of the problem which has arisen in last 7, 8 years, the BOT toll is not a preferred mode of undertaking the projects. The model concession agreement for 4-laning was issued by MORTH in August 2020, and for 6-laning, MC was issued by MORTH in December 2020, and both were issued by NHAI under the policy circular of 11.25 in December 2020. I will also be uploading the BOT toll, the MCA, the RFP for all of you for your consideration. I will also be uploading the HEM document. In case of HEM, the RFP was issued in 2015 by MORTH, and thereafter number of amendment has taken place from time to time. If you see, the MCA was issued on 10th of November 2020 by MORTH, and thereafter 17 amendment has taken place from 19th November 2020, latest up to August 2022. When we'll be talking about these documents, we'll be discussing in detail. Now, these are the amendments I just listed that after this HEM model was introduced, when the amendment has taken place. Just for your information, the first amendment took place on 19th November 2020, where instructions of Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs regarding PBG and additional PBG were introduced. The second amendment was issued on 29 December 2020 with regard to revised integrity pact for NHAI projects and for NHAI DCL and other projects. Third amendment took place on 16th March 2021, that is clarification on OM quotation. If quoted negative, the bidder will be declared non-responsive. Because earlier in HEM model, when we will be talking about the NPV was the bid price, NPV of bid project cost, and NPV of the first year operations staggered up to the life of 15 years. We used to work out the net present value of the bid, that was called bid price. If there somebody was quoting negative O&M, so if somebody was quoting negative, it was affecting the bid price. That is why this amendment came from March 2021. If somebody is quoting negative figure, then he was made non-responsive. Fourth amendment came on 8 January 2021 with regard to GST on road contract. Contract price may be considered exclusive of GST, because GST amount is to be reimbursed by the authority apart from the contract price being quoted by the concessionaire. 40% is being paid during construction along with the construction sports, and on 60% of the annuities, GST is paid along with the annuity amount. Now, fifth amendment again took place with regard to additional security deposit and BG in case of abnormally low bid, because how to deal to impose additional performance security in case of abnormally low bids. Sixth amendment came again, revision in the integrity pact for NHAI projects and other projects, where incorporation of names of IEs in the NITs were mentioned. Seventh amendment came on 26th August 2021, relief to the contractors, developers for road sector in view of second wave of COVID-19. Eighth amendment came on 3rd November 2021, drone video recording of project highway during development, construction and O&M period. Similarly, 9th amendment came on 16 November 2021, standard operating procedure to debar, penalize, declare non-performer the contractor of the concessionaire in NH and other centrally sponsored road projects. 10th Amendment came with it on 16 November 2021, same date, supply of fly ash from thermal power plants to NHA projects. 11th Amendment came on 7 December 2021, amendment in standard RFP and standard EPC agreement for NH and other sponsored road projects proposed to be implemented on EPC mode of contract to make procurement compliant of public-private preferable to make in India Order 2017 Rule 140 11 of GFR. The same was also implemented for HAM projects. 12th Amendment came on 17 January 2021. Expenditure to be taken into consideration while considering a proposal for release of PBG in reference to Article 9.3 of the MCA. Then, 13th Amendment took place on 3rd March 2021. Works of MDRs without loan assistance to be considered for core sector under Category 4 and not under Category 3 or Category 1. Then again there was an amendment in April 2021 with regard to modification in the Integrity Pact, because a lot of fraudulent practices were being prevalent. To cater for and to avoid those things, new Integrity Pact was designed. 15th Amendment came on 27th April 2021. Changes in the eligibility criteria like the case of EPC as advised by Baba Morth as per circular of 11th April 2021, whereby in HAM projects also it was made compulsory that for standalone projects and for highway projects at least some experience of eligible criteria should be there for NH projects or standalone projects to get qualified for those projects. 16th Amendment came on 23rd May 2022, whereby the bid project cost become the new parameter for HAM instead of bid price. When we will be talking with examples, we will be discussing on this aspect in detail. 17th Amendment took place on 12th August 2021. Acceptance of electric bank guarantees EBG for bid security and performance security, because to avoid any fraudulent practice and fake bank guarantees, it was decided that henceforth from August onwards the authority will accept only the electronic bank guarantees EBGs to avoid any kind of a confusion and for the renewal and release also, because in media you must have seen in release of performance bank guarantees some unhealthy practices were there which came to the knowledge of government. Then a policy was issued to carry out amendment that instead of physical bank guarantees now they will be taking electronic bank guarantees, so that as far as possible in even for release of these bank guarantees there will be no interfacing, it will be all through electronic communication, this will be released or accepted. So these were the amendments which has come out in the RFP document and the model document which we will be talking about. Now, what is hybrid NVD model? Somebody may ask me why it was introduced, why it was not thought of till 2016 or 2015 when hybrid model was introduced. I am sure all my participant friends must be knowing that from 1997, when the NH rules were amended, thereafter BOT concept of BOT toll and BOT annuity mode were brought, and quite a number of projects were bidded by the authority, Morth, NHI, on BOT toll, BOT annuity mode. But 2010 onwards, due to aggressive bidding, due to not having the model document concept clarity, lot of arbitration took place. The BOT developers burned their fingers, whereby a thought was made that instead of BOT toll, where the response was very poor, why not to go for a mixture of EPC and BOT NOT mode, whereby more and more projects can be undertaken and the contractors can participate and show their willingness to undertake those projects. That is why on hybrid mode 40/60 cost ratio was decided for projects to be implemented on HAM mode by NHAI. In fact, now more than 30% of the total road projects by NHAI are being undertaken under HAM mode, where apart from 60% of the project cost, the private player will also build the road and on completion will hand over it to the government. The government shoulders the responsibility of revenue collection by toll. The government will then pay the fixed amount of annually to the private player for defined period of 10 to 15 years as per the concession agreement. Government will select the private player in competitive bidding who ask for the minimum annuity from the government. This is the concept of hybrid model. We'll be talking in detail on this. Now, what are the benefits of HAM? HAM is a kind of win-win situation for both private player and government. Government has reduced responsibility for arranging for cost of project to the extent of 40%, while in EPC it was 100%. The private player has to arrange for only 60% of project cost, like the case of BOT NVT, where it was 100%, unless government gives viability gap funding, VGF of 20%, nevertheless it was minimum 80%. Moreover, all regulatory clearances, risk, compensation risk, commercial risk, traffic risk is borne by the government. So risk of the private person also becomes the minimum. This is hybrid annuity mode. Now, I have just given you the glimpse of these things. Now, if participants are interested, I can give a talk in detail on hybrid annuity mode. Otherwise, we can come to our subject matter and take some example how we have been dealing in filling the information in the RFP where square and brackets are given. Now, I ask from all participants whether they want further explanation from my side on hybrid and mode, or should I switch on to the main topic, how to deal with the square and brackets in the model documents. Should I proceed for A or B? Gupta sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, if you want, I can give you brief description about HAM. Why the need of HAM annuity mode was needed? What is the overview of the model? What are the finance related changes, concept of the project cost, the finance related changes, the key changes in the concession agreement, the advantages in a hybrid model, and we can have detailed discussion. And then we can go to the topic of the square and brackets and the provisions of articles and the schedules. Now, why the need for a hybrid model was arising? Now, highway is a critical component of infrastructure, has force multiple effects on economy. Government of India has allocated 111 lakh crore, almost 13.14 billion under National Infrastructure Pipeline for this plan 2019-25. Road sector is expected to grow at 18% over 2019 to 2025. If 60% to come through private sector participation, that is our expectation. Now, what are the issues in road development? Capacity constraint faced by developers, over leverage financials due to excessive exposure of highway and infrastructure projects. If you see 2006 onwards, up to 2012-13, banks has funded those BOT projects. But things has gone haywire after 13-14, where the revenue expected and the projections made was not matching due to number of factors. First, the developers, they jacked up their cost without bringing any equities. They got the funding done from banks, and to service that higher amount of debt, the BOT projects were not serving the purpose. And that time fast track system was not there. So even leakages and thefts were taking places in the tolls, which were also not coming to the knowledge of MORTH or NHAI. That is why thereafter banks are feeling that they are over leveraged, their debt is not being serviced, there was lack of availability of debt products aligned with the revenue stream profile of highway projects. Thereafter, banks reach ceiling as per the sectoral exposure norms, and as such, it becomes really difficult for BOT operators to go for refinancing, funding, refunding of those projects, because those days rate of interest were also very high, and growth has also not taken the way it was emphasized. That is why there was a need to consider another mode of hybrid annuity mode. Now, what is the difference between EPC and BOT and hybrid? Now, take example in EPC. The financial risk is of the government, O&M risk is also of the government, revenue risk is also of the government. In case of BOT mode, financial risk was of private, O&M risk was also private, revenue risk was also private. In hybrid annuity mode, the revenue risk is shared by between government and private. O&M risk is taken by the private. Revenue risk is totally taken over by the government, because toll revenue is the baby of the authority or the government. Now, if you see the overview of the model, the project cost is the big parameter. 40% of the project cost construction support by the government. Annuity payments biannually for 15 years. I'm talking about an example of NHAI, but in NS division, the annuities are biannually, but there it is for 10 years. O&M payments are also made along with the annuities. Interest payment on reducing balance, average of 1 year MCLR for 5 top banks plus 1.25%. This is the interest reimbursement today taking place in HAM. Earlier it used to be bank rate plus 3%. So in hybrid mode annuity projects, the toll collection is the responsibility of government. O&M is carried out by the concessionaire. 60% of the project cost is arranged by the concessionaire for financial closure during construction period, and during O&M period, toll collection and O&M is carried out by the concessionaire. Now, overview of the model. So there is a project cost, there is a construction period, there is a capital support, then there is a O&M period, there is a annuity, there is a interest payment, there is a O&M expenses. Other CA provisions are condition precedents are also prevalent, performance security is also in place, right of way is also one of the condition, financial closure is also one of the condition, and termination in what termination payments are there, we'll be talking about. These are the major changes which has taken place from the BOT to toll or BOT annuity mode project to HAM project. Now we will be discussing one by one. Now project cost to be considered excluding GST. This is based on circular of January 2021, whereby from April onwards, whatever project has been bidded, this has been bidded based on exclusive of GST. Yes, sir. Sankardev Saab, you are asking me some question? Should I proceed further?
Yes, sir.
I am not hearing you. Now, finance related changes oblique concept of project cost. There is a bid due date, there is a appointed date. From appointed date till the date of commercial operation is there, this is the construction phase. And once COD is achieved, thereafter O&M phase started. Now project cost is quoted by the selected bidder, which shall include civil construction cost, physical and price contingencies, risk premium and financing cost. There is an example. If 1000 crore is the amount specified in the bid of the selected bidder at the time of bid, say 1st January 2020, used as bidding parameter for selection of concessionaire, then here the project cost revised as per variation in price index 70% based on WPI increase, 30% based on CPI increase. Project cost at the commencement of construction appointed date, suppose price index as on the reference date proceeding to bid date is 200. If price index on reference date immediately after proceeding the appointed date, say on 31st December 2025, it is 205, hence the price multiple is 1.025. Thus the opening project cost will be 1025 crore instead of 1000 crore quoted by the concessionaire. Similarly, project cost is revised as per variation in the price index 70% based on WPI, 30% based on CPI. Variation of price index date, it all depend upon what reference date you are having, when it is going to get completed. So on the COD date, from first billing, second billing, third billing, because earlier grants of 40% used to be paid in 5 installment, 88% in 5 installments equally during construction. From 2021 April onwards, the grants were made 10 instead of 5 grants, instead of 8%, they start paying 4% each. But on the billing date, if there is an increase in the WPI or CPI, the developer gets adjustment in its bid project cost based on 70% component on WPI, 30% component on CPI. So based on this price index multiples on COD, the cost is updated and 60% on annuities are being paid on the completion cost. For instance, the price index on reference index date proceeding the bid date is 200. Price index on reference index date proceeding to COD 1st October 2022 is 240. Hence the price index multiple is 1.2. Thus completed cost will be 1200 crore instead of 1000 crore. Based on this, 60% of completion cost shall be payable during O&M period based on reducing balance of completion cost used to pay interest. Interest is being paid. Earlier it used to be bank rate plus 3%, but from 2021 the same has been made 5 banks MCLR plus 1.25% instead of bank rate plus 3%. So 40% there too is being paid, but there is a rider in that. If WPI increase is less than 3%, then there is no price adjustment being given. So this is all by example I have cited and we have provided. Suppose estimated civil cost is 800 crore, adjustment for physical and price index, risk and financing cost, say 50%, then the estimated project cost become 920. TPC is equal to estimated project cost minus 40%. So TPC 920 minus 400 will be 520. He has to arrange his funding against 1000 crore BPC. So here bid project cost is 1000. That was on 1st January 2020 when index was 200. On 31st December, if index is 205, then the cost become 1025. On first invoice, 30th June 2021, if index is 210, then the cash spot 4%, 1/10 of 40% will be 40 multiplied by 10542 crore. Likewise, the price index proceeding to 1st October 2021, if it is 240, then the completion cost is 1200. Project specific cost estimate is 800. Estimated increase 50% is 120 crore on account of physical and price contingencies, risk premium and financing cost. So total project cost is 920 minus 40% there too of 1000 crores. So 520 he is required to fund from his resources through banks against the completion cost of 1200. 40% of the project cost provided by authority to the concessionaire during construction in the form of construction spot. Construction spot to be distributed in 10 equal installments of 4% each. Timing of above disbursement is linked to the percentage of project cost expended by concessionaire and physical progress defined in Schedule G. Now, what are the other things given for funding of initial working capital? Up to 10% of project cost, 10% of say 1000 crore, 100 crore in case may be paid by the authority as mobilization advance in 2 installment, 5% each, where he is required to bring 110% of BG to avail this mobilization advance. Concessionaire can request mobilization advance of first installment at any time after appointed date, second installment after 60 days from the appointed date. The rate of interest on mobilization advance is equivalent to 1 year MCLR of 5 top banks plus 1.25%. Earlier it used to be only the bank rate. The mobilization advance is to be deducted in 8 equal installments during construction from each payment to be made by the authority. Interest to be recovered from 9th and 10th installment. This is the basic parameter of funding of mobilization advance. That annuity payment during construction period remaining 60% of completion cost shall be paid biannually installment for 15 years. Concessionaire shall remain responsible for maintenance of the project till the end of concession period. Authority shall provide financial support of O&M expenses in the form of biannual payments. Biannual payments of O&M expense shall be made to the concessionaire in accordance with the amount quoted, which will be inflation indexed. The installment of O&M payment shall be linked with the change in the price index on due date of payment with respect to bid due date. The first installment of annuity payment shall be due and payable within 15 days of 180 days of COD. Remaining installment will be due and payable within 15 days of completion of each successive 6 months. These were the silent features with regard to the annuity payments on HAM projects. Interest payment on reduced balance of completion cost shall be made every 6 months. The rate of interest shall be 1 year MCLR of 5 of scheduled commercial banks plus 1.25% as announced by the authority from time to time. Interest shall be due and payable biannually along with the each installment and annuity payments. O&M payment. Authority shall provide financial support of O&M expense in the form of biannual payments. The installment of O&M shall be linked with the change in the price index on due date of payment with respect to bid date. The concessionaire shall remain responsible for maintenance of the project till the end of concession period. The authority shall provide financial support for O&M expense in the form of biannual payments. Biannual payment of O&M expense shall be made to the concessionaire in accordance with the amount quoted up to May 2021, and thereafter. Yes, please. Thereafter, there are certain percentages which has been fixed in the RFP and DCA, which we'll be talking about in the HAM from May 2021 onwards. I will give you the background why this has been done by the authority. Now, there were cases where upfront loading was being done by the developer while quoting for O&M. And in this HAM model, divestment is allowed, exit is allowed to the concessionaire after getting first annuity. The concessionaire can exit the concession and can sell the concession to other pension fund where they can appoint a O&M operator and maintain the asset and collect the annuities. But there the problem was when upfront amount of O&M was uploaded in the bid project cost, where without bringing annuity, without bringing any equity, they were making use of that amount, upfront payment of O&M, to cater for the equity. To avoid that, it was decided that O&M payments should be made by the authority and concessionaires were not maintaining the road. That is why this new development taken place in May 2021, whereby the O&M payments has been indexed in a different manner. I will show in the next slide. These are the percentages in this where annuity payments are, this 60% payment is paid. First year 2.10, second annuity is 2.17, third annuity is 2.24, likewise. So, and that will become due 180 days within 15 days from the COD. Now, these are the O&M payments from May 2020 onwards. For flexible perpetual payment, these are the percentages which are to be paid by the authority in respective years. In case of flexible, these are the percentages. In case of rigid payment, these are the percentages of BPC. And in case of standalone project, these are the percentages. If somebody has different expenditure, they can load that amount plus or minus in the bid project cost. But authority will be reimbursing this particular percentage while releasing annuities towards O&M payments. Now, each installment of O&M will be product of amount determined in accordance with the above percentage and the price index multiple on reference date to the proceeding date, bid due date. For instance, if project cost on bid due date was 1000 crores, if price index on reference date on bid due date is 200, price index on reference date proceeding to second installment of O&M period is 250, then the price multiple becomes 1.25. If he has quoted 1% of 1000 crore as his O&M cost, then instead of 10 crore, he will be getting 12.5 crore because of the indexing due to change in price indexing multiple of 70 based on WPI, 30% based on CPI. So this was all about HAM model. In HAM model, there are other features also. Bonus on early completion. If COD is achieved on or before 30 days prior to the scheduled date of completion, the authority shall pay to the concessionaire a bonus equal to 0.5% of 60% of bid project cost for the first 30 days of which COD shall proceed the scheduled date of completion, and thereafter the said bonus shall be calculated on per rota basis for each day proceeding the said 30 days period. The bonus shall be due and payable to the concessionaire along with the first annuity payment. Just to make little lucration for the developer that he can complete the project before due date, then he is eligible to get bonus. Similarly, if he delays the completion, there is a damages for delay in completion of construction cost, because NHI will be losing or authority will be losing the benefit of toll if COD does not occur prior to 91st day of the scheduled completion date. Concessionaires shall pay damages to the authority 0.2% of the performance security for each day delayed till COD is achieved or for a month of such delay. Now, the eligibility criteria has been changed. Just for your reference, now what was the criteria earlier before November 2020 and what is the criteria now? This just we are explaining because this is the changes which has taken place in last year. We thought we should bring out to your knowledge. The bidders have earlier it used to be 25% of the close of preceding financial year. The bidders will have a minimum net worth, which has been now made 15% of the last preceding year. If there are more than one bidder or there is a consortium, then for each member it was 12.5% of their minimum net worth, which has been now made 7.5%. Similarly, the core sector definition would include power, telecom, ports, airport. This was the narrow definition which has been little elaborated. Now, core sector would be deemed to include civil construction, cost of power sector, commercial setup, telecom, ports, airport, railway, metro, rail, industrial parks, estates, logistic parks, pipelines, irrigation, water supply, stadiums, hospital, hotels, smart city, warehouse, silos, oil and gas, sewage, and real estate development. Earlier, the capital cost of the project was 10% of PC. Now it has been said if for the purpose of considering capital cost, 50% of EPC can be considered. Earlier, the grant used to be in form of equity or debt. Now it has been changed to each member of consortium shall hold 26% of equity during construction period and 2 years thereafter along with the associates. Now each member of consortium shall hold at least 26% of equity during construction period and 6 months thereafter along with the associates. So from 2 years, the exit has been allowed after 6 months now. In case of scheduled completion gets extended due to delay attributable solely to the authority, the concessionaire shall be liable to maintain for such extended period financial closure for an amount not lower than the total project cost less 10% of EPC minus 40%. This is the new thing they have introduced. Earlier it was bank rate plus 3%, which has now been made MCLR of 5 scheduled banks and plus 1.25%. Earlier there used to be a dispute resolution. Now there is a dispute resolution board which has been particularly stated in the RFP document and the DC itself. These were the significant key changes which has taken place in the concession with regard to the concession which were happening earlier. Now we will come straightway for the main topic, square and brackets. I'll request my friend to upload. Yeah. Yeah, ham. Model documents. Up. Model document. RFP. Friends, this is the model document RFP which was issued by Morth. Now, if you just see in the model document, there are dots, stars, RFP for such and such on hybrid annuity mode, bid package number dot dot dot, date dot dot dot. So, wherever dot 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 thing is there, we need to fill that information. Wherever there are brackets, we need to put the project specific information as per the guidance given in the model document under footnotes. If you read the footnote, in this, if you just read, the amount would be calculated as per directions by Morth oblique NHA for calculation of estimated project cost. It means the project cost, here we need to fill up the project cost. Here we need to fill up the name of the highway, length, estimated project cost. And here, wherever this stars are given, we need to fill up the project information. Now here also we need to give the name of the project. So all these blanks will be filled up whenever a RFP document is floated. All these information, wherever gaps are there, we need to fill up the information. Whatever information is given in brackets, there we need to explain that, like NHI e-tending portal, like what is the portal name, all these things we need to put up and fill up based on the this model document. I will take I will be taking an example how this information is being filled. But for your reference purposes, I just shown this is the master document of RFP. Similarly, I will be showing the master document of MCA, where we need to get guided by filling up the information by removing square and brackets and asterisks. So this was the model document issued by Ministry of Road Surface Transport, where guiding factors are given, and whenever authority floats a RFP, the bidding documents are based on this information as prepared by filling up all information in the RFP. I will show you now another example of the model document. This is the model document which Ministry has issued. I will be sharing you for HAM, for BOT, NOT, all I will be sharing one by one. So this is the document. If you see, in the first page, there are instructions to the bidders. Just thoda bada karo isko. Now, if you read these instructions, you yourself will be able to fill up those informations in the MCA model document, where the customizations of document are made project specific by inserting the information, because based on these instructions only we have been finalizing the bidding documents. Now I'll be taking one example, practical example, how these square and brackets are being filled in. But this document I have just shared with you for your reference purposes, that based on this MCA model document, we always prepare a draft concession agreement and a draft RFP document, whereby we fill up the project specific information and then upload those documents. Now I will be taking an example of a very recent project where my friend will be showing how that information has been filled in. Just take an example. First, I will be opening the RFP. Now, if you see, this is the name of the authority which is filled in. Then this is the name of the project. If you see, whatever is in a different thing, this is the information we have filled. This project belongs to NHI, which is under Ministry of Road Surface Transport. This is the name of the project. Then in this particular date, particular month, the RFP has been issued, finalized. Then indexing will automatically change, because sometimes by filling information page number changes. So automatically that is taken care of. There are new things, certificate regarding compliance with restrictions under Rule 144. The amendment took place in 2021. That has also been included in the RFP document. So here, if you see the NIT, name and address of the authority, we have filled up the information. Then bid oblique package number, the date, then the name of the project, then the proposal has been filled in, then how that is being hosted, all dates etc. has been filled in, what is the hosting date and what is the last date. All these things, by filling in the information in square brackets and wherever the star part is there, by filling the project specific information, we are doing. Now there are few things where in the model documents it has been provided, whereby the authority can change some of the information, the authority cannot change some of the information. So wherever there is a curly bracket, there is a simple bracket, that has a meaning. Now wherever curly brackets are there, where are related to the project, information is changed as per the requirement. Wherever simple brackets are there, the information is only with regard to the specific requirement of the project only. So like how the NPV shall be calculated, here the full formula has been given based on what the financial leverage is there with regard to MCLR 5%, 5 banks MCLR, how it is being calculated. So based on the footnote given in this, based on the square bracket information, the information is filled up in the document. Now I will request my friend Parveen Rawat to further explain you on this issue. Just explain. You take example of this.
Here, NIT date is 31st August 2020. And last date, we have added 25 days to the NIT date for receiving our bid queries. And pre-bid meeting at 27.
It has been scheduled on 27 September 2020. Then authority will be getting the response from the for the queries latest by 10th October 2020. Last date of request for bid document is 19th October 2020 up to 1100 hours. Then bid submission of tender online will be bid due date same date 1100 hours. The opening of technical bid at venue provided in clause 2.11.2.1.1.4 20th October 2020 at 11:30 on such and such. Read further. Likewise.
Bid validity 120 days and signing of the agreement within 45 days of award of LOA. Now, bid security is to be 1% of the estimated project cost. It is footnote. The bid security shall be generally 1% of the estimated project cost. However, the authority may, if deemed necessary, prescribe a higher bid security not exceeding 2% of the estimated project cost.
talk about जो नए provisions बने सारे बताओ. ये नए provisions आए ना सर Make in India.
Not for me.
हाँ बता.
Is the bidder, including any individual, any member of consortium, should neither be a non-performing party on the date of opening of tender, nor on the date of LOA.
So
Here are
there,
20 conditions for non-performing a party to be considered as a non-performing party.
so there the information need to be given by the bidder. This is as per the amendment which has taken place in 2021 based on the circular issued by MORTH on the guidelines of Ministry of Finance. So there, during evolution, these things need to be seen, but these need to be incorporated in our RFP document based on information and circular issued by MORTH. Further. These are the things which has been clearly spelled out, that how a bidder's bid will be considered, because there was a circular issued by Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, that from our neighboring countries where our lead connections are there, if a bidder is bidding for the document, then what condition he should fulfill. All these things based on the circular has been incorporated in the bidding documents, based on footnotes.
Now here comes the technical capacity which bidder is required to.
A to ci potem to się już? To ci potem to się już?
If you can unmute your mic, Khurshid sir. Now, what the eligibility criteria is there are certain technical capacity that during 5 years what should be there. So we fill up the blanks by considering the eligibility criteria, that whatever the bid, the estimated cost is equivalent to that, we need to put in our, that he should, in last 5 years, he should have done equivalent value of technical threshold capacity. That information we used to design, and therefrom 20% of that should be from the similar works. So that we used to design in that respective column. So this information based on dots and dotted things, we used to draw that information, and we used to fill up those information while preparing bidding documents and uploading them for benefit of all bidders who want to participate for this, so that there is clarity. Because in today's topic, the main problem comes if there are some misgivings in the RFP or the model document which are put for bidding. In dispute resolution, they make these issues only for litigation and take advantage of that. That is why there is a very essentiality that whatever information we fill up, we should have the clarity on that, and there should not be any confusion, there should not be any misgiving. If any misgivings are there, that need to be taken care at the time of, before the bid due date is over. If any rectification need to be carried out, we need to carry out based on bidders' queries, based on our requirement, because later on the bidding documents becomes a written contract for authority to operate, and that becomes the main cause of dispute if there are any misgivings in the documents. So we need to be very careful that whatever information we fill up that should be accurately as per the model documents, and there should not be any confusion, because the bidder later on while raising disputes take advantage of these things only. And before standardization of documents, for example 1997 till 2009, there were a lot of misinterpretation in the concession agreement, contract agreement, RFPs. Advantage of that only is being taken by the bidders or by the contractors in raising their disputes, where contract management really become difficult for the authority. And if benefit of doubt is to be given, then based on these documents, the bidder is entitled to have the full benefit of doubt. That is why it is for the authority to be very clear that whatever information we are filling up in the bidding documents, that should be fairly as per the model document. Any mistake committed at this stage becomes a problematic thing for the authority, and that is why the disputes are arising, and thereafter it becomes difficult to really address those things. In fact, still the process is on that in interpretation of various clauses, some bidders take advantage of those. To avoid that, the ministry and NHAI and other authorities are discussing the documents at apex level and are bringing out clarity or amendments to cater to avoid those confusions. In fact, the RFP and MC recently has been reviewed, where suggestions has been given to further avoid the misgivings, which wherever there are two meanings, there are two interpretations, the authority is coming out with clear circulars with the help of ministry, master circulars. Go further. So with this, in the first topic, I think we will just share you these two documents where the track mode, we have highlighted the portion, whatever information has been filled up. So I will request Gupta ji of the academy to share you both the examples,
Yes.
which we are just showing you, the RFP and the model document, wherein the information has been filled up by us by addressing square and brackets. First, we have talked about the RFP. This is about the MCA of that particular project, which has been uploaded in the bidding documents, where all these highlighted portion is the information filled up by us by correcting and incorporating the information based on square and brackets and asterisks and the dot dot, the star marks given in the master documents. So these two documents I will request my friend to share with you in, and we will go for break of tea, and in the second session we will be discussing about the significant articles, clauses, schedules which we need to talk about in these model documents. Thank you so much.
सर फिर हम
Sir,
11:35 ज्वाइन कर
one
लेंगे
query is there, sir. Sir, one query is there.
Yes, yes.
Sir, actually, you were talking about the many more interpretation. If there are more than one interpretation is there, then the interpretation
Yes.
which goes against the client, that that as per the contract law, that is to be taken in the account. It is there is one Latin term, that is contra pro term. It is against the draftsman of the contract. That provision should be interpreted in the such way that it should go against the draftsman of the contract who has drafted the contract. But in our CA, there is specific provision that any interpretation should be evaluated in such a way that it should not go against the client. So
But if you
we have
see
separate separately in our. Yes, sir.
last 10 years, lot of amendments has been issued,
Yes, sir.
and in last 2 years particularly,
Yeah.
a lot has been dealt on that. And if you see the circulars which has been
Yeah.
issued from time to time, where the
Yeah.
benefit of doubt has been given to the bidders, whereby if any misinterpretation in the transaction document, if it is prevalent, then
Yeah.
that has been construed in its perspective, and based on that only a view has been taken to give the benefit. But to avoid that, time to time, authority, ministry, NHIDCL, they have been reviewing those documents.
Yes.
They are carrying out changes in those documents, and it is a dynamic system whereby
Yeah.
we learn by committing
So,
mistakes.
sir, that is agreed, sir. What I want to say that there is one provision in our agreement that if more than one interpretation is possible, then the interpretation which is most congruent and consistent with the agreement that will be prevail, and against the draftsman that who has drafted that interpretation will not prevail. So benefit of doubt does not go to the bidder or to the concessionaire as per our mechanism, contract mechanism.
So
That
that
was
is
what
why,
I.
if you see the dispute resolution system which has taken place,
Yes, sir.
and now authority is trying to resolve those issues, you
Yes.
see CCI 1, CCI 2, CCI 3,
Yeah.
where after conciliation, if things are getting sorted out, to a large
Yeah.
extent, those things has been sorted out, and
Yes, sir.
it is a continuous process. But if you go to the court of law or independent arbitrators or under the Arbitration Act, whatever the experts interpret and he constitute, the decision goes in his favor. So by bringing out of model documents, our intention is to cater for wherever any misgivings are there, we are trying to insert those things in our draft concession agreement or draft RFP, which we are putting as a bidding documents for benefit of all bidders who are participating. And based on that only, they are bidding for that and they are getting benefit of that. And it is a continuous process, but the purpose of today's session was that square brackets in model documents plays a major role. If small
Yeah.
mistake is committed in removal of those things, that becomes a chronic problem for the authority when the final
Yeah.
agreement, those misgivings are still left out. So our intention was to alert everybody that how we should be serious in
Yeah.
filling of the correct information by removing square and brackets and giving correct messages to all bidders as per asterisks and as per the footnotes, as per the instructions given the bidding documents, so that to the most prospective way the information is brought out to the documents and there should not be any inconsistency. Otherwise, in the interpretation, priorities has been given that the clauses of concession agreement will privilege on schedules, the annexures. Likewise, if you see in Article 1, when we'll be talking in the second session, we'll be talking about those things when we'll be discussing the highlights of the various clauses and the schedules. Thank you.
सर ब्रेक कर लें सर.
We need to talk about the provisions of various articles given in the model document. Now, in the previous lecture, we have discussed how we need to fill up those information by removing square and brackets, filling up the dots, the project specific information, dealing with the asterisks, in the concession agreement, in the model document, in the RFP. Now, in the concession agreement, if you see the various provisions, the articles, the first article is definition and interpretation. My friend was asking few minutes back how the interpretation takes place. Now, I'll just browse you that particular clause, the provisioning in the articles, whereby in the model documents clarity is given, but we need to understand how that need to be dealt when any problem arises. Now, I'll just invite attention of my friends in this particular draft document where interpretation has been. Now, if you see this clause, in this agreement, unless the context otherwise requires, reference to any legislation or any provision thereof shall include amendment or reenactment or consolidation of such legislation or any provisions thereof so far as the amendment and reenactment of consolidation applies and is capable of applying to any transaction entered into hereunder. References of laws of India or Indian laws or regulations having the force of law shall include the laws, acts, ordinance, rules, regulations, bylaws, notifications. So all these things has been defined. Now the problem comes particularly if there are inconsistencies in the document itself. Now, where schedule says something else, article says something else, there only one need to consider and take the interpretation. Now, if you see the priority of agreement clauses and schedules, this agreement and all other agreements and documents forming part of or referred to in this agreement are to be taken as mutually explanatory and unless otherwise expressly provided elsewhere in this agreement, the priority of this agreement and other documents and agreements forming part hereof or referred to herein shall, in the event of any conflict between them, be in the following order. This agreement, the second priority will be all other agreements, documents forming part hereof referred to in that agreement at A above shall prevail over the agreements and documents at B above. Then, subject to provisions of clause 4.1.1, in case of any ambiguities or discrepancies within this agreement, the following shall apply. Between two or more clauses of this agreement, the provisions of a specific clause relevant to the issue under consideration shall prevail over those in other clauses. Between the clauses of this agreement and the schedules, the clauses shall prevail, and between schedules and annexes, the schedules shall prevail. So my friend few minutes back was asking me that how to take the priorities. So priorities has been spelled out in our model document itself, which become the ultimate interpretation. Similarly, if there is any confusion between two schedules, the schedule relevant to the issue shall prevail. Between the written description on drawings and specifications and standards, the latter shall prevail. Between the dimensions scaled from the drawing and its specific written dimensions, the latter shall prevail. Between any value written in numericals and that in words, the latter shall prevail. If you see in words and numerical, if numerical is something different, but finally what has been spelled out in words, that will prevail. So when this thing has been given, I think to a large extent, the interpretation is taken care. But if interpretation and definition clauses are to be considered, I think in dispute resolution, this particular chapter or article is most important for all of us. Now coming to other clauses. Now I will be showing you some highlights of the concession agreement because it will be difficult in this shorter period to go through each and every clause. But I will just show you an example. Yes, please. Yeah, we have taken an example of a very recent concluded concession where NHA has entered a concession agreement with Salimar Road Infrastructure Limited on 23rd of March 2021. The SPV, which was created by the JV of Salimar and APCO, they have signed the concession agreement, and therein we have just highlighted that what are the different things. First and foremost thing is the date of signing of the concession agreement, then the likely date of appointed date, then the completion period, then the performance security, then the mobilization advance, then the ROWA, right of way. If you see, if these things are clearly and correctly spelled out, then to a large extent care is taken, because in the concession agreement, in the model documents, if you see, for delay and damages, everything is linked with the performance security. If performance security amount is clearly spelled out, it is taken care. If that performance security, additional performance security is available and progress is not taking place as per the scheduled construction program given in the concession agreement, then the authority can always recover those damages by encashing the performance security. Ultimate aim of authority is not to encash anything. Ultimate aim is project completion. But in the concession agreement, all guiding principles has been given, whereby it has been at what stage the performance security will be released, how the concessionaire will be paid for his annuities, how if he desires to avail the mobilization advance, then in what way it will be given. Those things are clearly out in our articles. If you see, for mobilization advance, it is clearly spelled out that 10% will be given in two equal installments. First may be requested immediately after appointed date, after 60 days from the appointed date, on furnishing of BG of 110% advance. As announced by the authority, plus 1.25%. And in the mobilization advance chapter only, we have spelled out how that recovery will take place during construction in and how the interest will be recovered. All these things has been talked about in our various articles. Similarly, most significant factor is ROW. The authority shall grant 80% of total length of construction before appointed date. The balance ROW will be granted within 90 days from the appointed date.
क्या है ये? क्या चेक करूं मैं? क्या लिख क्या रहा है?
Can you please? Should we proceed?
Yes, sir.
So in the ROW, we are clearly spelling out that 80% of the Neeraj ji, I think you need to ask them to mute their.
Yes,
So, if there is any delay for any reason other than force majeure or breach of CA by the concessionaire, the authority shall pay damages at rupee 1 per day for 10 square meter or part thereof commencing from 91 days till 180 days. If authority is unable to provide remaining site within 180 days from the appointed date, the remaining site of project shall be removed from the scope of the work under provision of change of scope. So these are spelled out so that while fulfilling the condition precedents by the authority, with reference to the condition precedents to be fulfilled by the developer or concessionaire or the SPV, there is clarity so that the dispute is avoided as far as possible. Similarly, for utility shifting, it has been very clearly spelled out under articles the concessionaire shall, in accordance with applicable laws and with the assistance of NHA, undertake shifting of any utility, including electrical lines, water pipes, telephone cables, to an appropriate location or alignment if such utility adversely affect the construction or maintenance of the project. Because normally delay takes place on few things where authority lacks in fulfilling the condition precedents of making available of ROW, avoiding availability of clearances for enabling the developer for shifting of utility, including tree cutting, etc. A lot depend upon this. And if this is there, then things can be avoided. Similarly, the most important thing is change of scope. The authority may not, withstanding anything contained in this agreement, require the provision of additional works and services which are not included in the scope of project, and the cost of theirs shall be expended by concessionaire and reimbursed to it by the authority. If you see Article 16 of, in case of a HAM project, very clearly it has been spelled out how to deal with change of scope. If there is a reduction in scope, then how the BPC will be reduced. If there is additional work, then how the concessionaire will be reimbursed. All these things has been talked about. Similarly, in condition precedence, which is also very significant. In condition precedence, the authority need to satisfy that they have availability or procurement of ROW is available. They have procured all applicable permits relating to environment protection and conservation of land forming part of ROW. They have procured forest clearance forming part of RW, save and accept permission of tree cuttings, procured approval of general arrangement drawings of ROW/ROU. Similarly, to be satisfied by the concessionaire, inter alia includes furnishing of performance security along with additional performance security in the form of bank guarantee, execution of escrow and substitution agreements, procurement of all permits as per Schedule E of concession agreement, execution of financing agreements and delivery of 3 copies of same and the financial model to the authority, establishing that the financial close is in place, the project is ready with availability of funds. If all these things are there, and then furnishing of a confirmation regarding correctness and representation of warranties in respect of ownership not less than 51% held by bidder, along with its associates, validity and existence of bidder under the existing laws, and transfer of all rights and interest in the project to the authority on the transfer date. These are the significant things which they need to clearly spelled out. Similarly, the construction support from the authority. The 40% of the bid project cost in HAM adjusted for the price index multiple shall be due and payable to the concessionaire in 10 equal installments of 4% each. These need to be clearly spelled out at what progress this will be considered. So this need very significantly taken care that whether there is a mention of these things or not, because both the parties need to adhere to that. Similarly, the annuity payment during operation period, when it will be due and payable and what rate it will be applicable and paid. So these percentages if are clearly spelled out, then there is no confusion. Bank who is making this concession agreement as the base for their lending, they also consider all these things. These plays a very significant role even for concessionaire and his other stakeholders to have the availability of funds available for funding of the project. If these are not clearly spelled out, then there is a confusion and dispute arising. Similarly, interest at what rate will be paid. Now, I will cite you an example of the concession agreements which were signed between 2016 March onwards till November 2020. Because in those agreements, in case of HAM projects, the interest was to be paid bank rate plus 3%. Bank rate is announced by Reserve Bank of India every quarter, and based on that, the concessionaire will be getting the benefit of whatever interest. So if somebody recollects in 2015-16, the bank rate used to be 8%, 7.5%, 7%. Then it was reduced to 6.5%. Ultimately, by 2019, it was reduced to 4.25. It means by adding 3%, where concessionaire at the time of bidding, he has considered that funding he will be getting, say at 9.5% or 10%. If bank rate is reduced to 4.25 and plus 3% there too, his reimbursement was 7.25, whereas during construction he was paying 9.5%. So those people, they have bidded at that time, they have suffered a loss. But once the asset was created, thereafter bank rate plus 3% was also a good rate. But from November onwards, based on representation received from number of developers, a view was considered whereby MCLR of 1 year of 5 top banks plus 1.25% was agreed as the interest, which is a very, very comfortable amount for all developers to cater for funding of their requirement from their banks, because the risk is during construction only. Thereafter, risk get reduced and refinancing is available even at MCLR or even lesser rates. In fact, nowadays, when authority is reimbursing 5 top banks MCLR plus 1.25%, that is working out as on date 8.81% reimbursement. Against that, there are developers, they are getting refinancing at 7%, 6.75%, 7.25%. It means straightway what reimbursement they are getting towards interest, they are benefited. When they are getting 8.81% as their reimbursement, as against 7% of their cost of funding, it means straightway 1.81% they are getting benefit. And that is the main reason in recent past it has been observed that the bids quoted are being received sometimes lesser than the BPC assessed by the authority, only because the funding during operation is available at a much cheaper rate than what it used to be earlier because of the banks flooding with lot of funds. Now, the next important thing is the O&M payments. You see, till May 2021, the option given was to the bidder, whereby he was at liberty to quote BPC plus first year on cost, and he was given the liberty to have the upfront loading of O&M, whereby he was getting undue benefit because 40% of BPC where O&M was loaded, he was getting grants. It means straightway, whatever upfront loading he has done, he has got additional 40%. What only he was losing, the indexing of the rest of the amount of O&M payments. And he was taking undue advantage of building equity out of O&M funding only, whereby authority realized that in some of the developers' case, once the divestment takes place, the O&M amount which the bidder is quoting is not sufficient to take care for the actual expenditure of O&M during operation. That is why authority, with the help of Ministry of Road Surface Transport and Niti Aayog, has come out just to encourage the pension funds. In case of HAM projects, they will be able to procure those projects after receipt of first annuity on construction of those assets, whereby if O&M payment is supported by the authority, those projects will become a lucrative investment for those pension funds, where the funding, the refinancing will be available at a much cheaper rate with reference to the refinancing done by commercial banks. And that is why this O&M system has been changed. So O&M plays a significant role. Similarly, termination and force majeure payments. If you just see, I'll open the chapter of termination payments, because in case of HAM project, even during construction, termination payment is available, which was not happening in case of BOT projects. Because BOT projects, termination payment was only available after COD. So there the risk was a lot. But in case of HAM projects, under non-political event, under political event, the authority has come out very clearly that what percentage on achieving particular milestones they will be making payment in case termination takes place. So this clarity, which has been brought out in the concession agreement, has taken care a lot, whereby dispute has been resolved to a large extent, and it becomes an attractive proposition for lenders, bankers to come forward and fund for the HAM projects. In fact, there is a competition going on as on date among lenders. They always feel secured funding HAM project with reference to BOT or any other mode of project, because in HAM project the risk for lenders has been reduced to a large extent. Even during construction, they are getting termination payments even if asset has not been completed. And after asset is completed, there is no risk at all, because the funding which will be available from banks will feel comfortable that the funding given by them is assured by the authority by way of termination payment. Then it becomes a lucrative proposition for banks to come forward. So just for your information, in this slide we have just highlighted that how far that termination payment will be paid at different, and it has been given in detail in the concession agreement under termination payment under force majeure clause, political, non-political, indirect political event, all these things, political event. Then even in the event of concessionaire default, concessionaire has got first payment milestone, then what payment is things has been spelled out. So during operation period is 65% of annuity payments remaining to be unpaid, including interest thereon up to the transfer date. These are very lucrative terms which has been put to the concession agreement, and this takes care for lenders and plays a significant role. Now, come to some of them. Yeah, this is the combined RFP for BOT project, which was issued in August 2020. In this RFP, the model RFP document is given for BOT up to 4 laning and 6 laning. There are provisions which has been talked about where information in square brackets and asterisks can be changed and looked into. So this is like the case of HEM only, but in BOT, certain risk is more for the concessionaire, and concessionaire is on means developers are only interested for BOT toll projects wherever a good amount of earning is available, where toll rates are good, where toll collections are good. They are bidding like anything. But what has happened from 2009 onwards up to 2015, where concessionaire has taken undue advantage, they have taken the lenders for ride by jacking up their prices in the bid project cost with reference to the prices quoted by the authority. There, without bringing any funds, they have availed funding at higher rate of interest, and with toll collection, they diverted those funds, and the lenders ultimately has burned their fingers, where in some of the cases, the toll revenue being collected is not sufficient even to service the debt. There are many examples like this in BOT projects. So this RFP we have uploaded and we have provided to the, but nowadays if you see, hardly 10% projects are being bidded on BOT basis, where response is also not that lukewarm. So today's the hot topic in BOT projects, particularly in road sector, is not to that extent. Though other modes of PPP mode are attracting more and more response. Even OMT, which has been stopped in between, there is every likelihood when TOT model is not taking place, the authority may go for award of number of concession for tolling and operation and maintenance through OMT contracts. So this is just RFP we have uploaded, where all these eligibility criteria, everything is given. This is the combined RFP for both 4-laning and 6-laning. Similarly, I will now show you the model concession agreement for 4-laning, which was also amended and issued sometimes in
August 2020.
August 2020, and for 6-laning in December 2020. If you see, authority has just bidded about 10 projects so far under BOT in last 2 years, wherever there was a good amount of toll collection, there only they have succeeded in getting those projects. What time? I will request Neeraj ji to make you available a copy of both the MCA
Yes, sir.
for your guidance.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So these were basically
तब जाके गिरेगा तो तू जो है वो भी अब बरसात में
आप इसका वो दिखाना शेड्यूल्स. Now both the 4-laning, 6-laning we have shown you. Now the most important chapter in the model document, the MCA, is with regard to the definitions, which is in case of HAM project, Article 42 talks about the different interpretations which need to be taken by way of definitions in the document. In case of BOT toll and BOT NOT, it is spelled out in Article 48, whereby very clearly they have spelled out for every term utilized in the concession agreement. So that becomes very important for all of you while interpreting for contract management and resolution of disputes. If anything need to be measured with regard to the definition given, with regard to the different provisions given under different articles and schedules and priority defined under Article 1 of the concession agreement. Now, with regard to schedules, if you see in case of HAM or BOT toll or BOT NOT, Schedule A talks about site of the project, the availability of ROW, the site for 4-laning, 6-laning, whatever the thing is, the existing structures, the ROBs, the grade separators, the minor bridges, the total number of structures, means what existing inventory is there of road, that is being talked in Schedule A. Schedule B, always it is with regard to development of the project highway, what work the concessionaire need to carry out, that has been spelled out in Schedule B. So Schedule B always Schedule B talks about the project facilities which he need to undertake, and Schedule B the standard and specifications which will regulate the construction. Then Schedule E talks about applicable permits. Schedule F talks about performance security, in what format it need to be given, and what should be its validity and how far care will be taken. Schedule G in case of BOT project talks about project completion schedule. Project milestone 1, project milestone 2, project milestone 3, project milestone 4, schedule 4, etc. Then schedule S talks about the drawings, the additional drawings, the list of drawings. Schedule I talks about the test to be carried out for the construction work. Schedule J talks about completion certificate. Schedule, whether it is provisional or it is final. Schedule K talks about maintenance requirement. Because some of the things they need to see monthly, some of the things they need to see dailies, all these things has been talked about. 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. So with this, if you all permit, we can wind up for today, because I have been told to appear for a meeting with chairperson. Neeraj, if you all permit me, I will go for that meeting.
Yes, sir.
I have just shown all these things, you can share with them.
Yes, sir.
Though it is 12:15 only, but I have just got a call from chairperson's office. The morning meeting which was there now has been rescheduled now, and we need to appear before her. So with this, I think we can finish today's talk, and you can share these documents to them. Thank you so much.
Now the participants are requested, please ask your questions if you have any, or clear your doubts.
Great time.
Sir, can you please elaborate basis of
Hey.
70% WPI and 30% CPI in price adjustment? What is the basis? Am I audible? Hello?
I think that today's lecture has already been finished. If the participants have any questions or doubt, please mention your questions or doubt in our WhatsApp group. We will circulate your questions to the faculty, sir, and try to get the answer of your questions.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for attending this second session of this ongoing training program. Tomorrow also training will start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and faculty will be Sri Mukul Upadhyay sir. Topic is step-by-step procedure to handle dispute from conciliation to court. So I expect from the participant that all will join tomorrow in the morning. Till then, thank you very much. Neeraj ji, now finish your meeting.
Yes, sir.